Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Geeked Out. Just as we were last week, this week we are delving back into the world of the boys and the spinoff of Gen V. We're doing the last half of season one, episodes 5 through 8. And I'm Kyle,
My name's Juan.
and so we're gonna go right back into where we were. And for anyone who's listening, I'm assuming you've watched the show. If not, there will be some spoilers because we're gonna get right to it about this. So at the end of the last episode, it was basically it ended on a real cliffhanger where it just kind of it cut out and you don't really know what's gonna happen. And the way episode 5 ends up starting out, you see. Honestly, when I turned it on, I thought that I had skipped something. Um, I'm not sure how recently you had watched this. I just got through it this week.
I remember that random skip. I'm like, did I fucking sit on my remote? What happened?
Okay, so good. It's good to know it wasn't just me. Because for those of you listening, basically this next episode it begins. It pans open or it opens up on Marie and Jordan just asleep in bed together. Clearly, neither one of them are wearing any clothing. They're under the sheets, and it kind of is implied that they've had a bit of a night with one another. And but you don't really know what that is, and the way they kind of wake up, they don't really know what that is. And then it shows the rest of the cast members kind of waking up. They're at um, what looks like had been a house party or some kind of big party, but they all wake up not remembering anything. And I mean, at first, obviously, you think, oh yeah, you're drinking. It's all this other stuff. You're in college, but there's clearly some sinister things happening.
Oh yeah, it's more than that. There's something else going on that made them completely black out.
Yeah, and of course the first suspect on the list, as soon as they start realizing, because they start saying like, I can't remember days, like as if they're because they wake up and it's almost like it's today's Thursday, and it's like, well, no, fucking today's Sunday. Like there are 2 to 3 days here that we don't know what we did, where we were, anything that went on. And the first suspect on the list is Rufus. He is another character who I believe we talked about him in the last episode. He has the ability of kind of like um, kind of not mind control, things like that, and he can
Yeah,
actually make people forget and black out. So obviously, with a character with those powers being brought up before, clearly he is suspect number one, and the group of them end up basically just on like almost like a manhunt. Like we have to find him, get him to fix this, get our memories back, and figure out what the fuck happened to us.
yeah. Well, one of the reasons why he's the main suspect is because Marie experienced firsthand this blackout experience with him being the culprit, right? Clearly. So obviously he's going to be suspect number one. But before we find out who about Rufus, I just wanted to point out as they're going through random rooms in this house, they stumble upon a room and what's happening is definitely sexual, but I can't explain like cuz they're superheroes, so I don't the way this person's physiology is, I just didn't know what was really happening. I knew it was sexual because there was moaning, but when this person's back opened up and pretty much gave me one of the weirdest money shot I've ever seen recorded. I just wanted to. I just made a point to write that down on my notes because
Why?
that kind
Why
of
am I not remembering this?
you should have, because that definitely uh, left a mark on me, to say the least. Just because it
Uh,
was so weird.
I'm sure I saw it. It's not really ringing a bell at the moment. I'm tempted to almost just put the episode on in the background for a quick second just to see what you're referring to, because I am not remembering this.
Oh
And I
man,
guarantee you, if I do that and then I put it on, I will as soon as I see it, I'll go, oh yeah, I remember this.
yeah. All you need to know is it's probably one of the weirdest money shots ever.
See, my weird the weird one for me comes a little later. Um,
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Yeah, let's just break down each episode. Like we'll run through episode 5, 6, 7, and 8,
Yeah,
and then we'll give our overall opinion of the whole season, and then final thoughts.
yeah, I think that's a good way of doing this. So yeah, back to this is like I said, they kind of form like a manhunt for Rufus and start to try and track him down. But when they find him, he tells them, nope, there's no way I could have done that. I've been here. There's no way. And then it comes to light that there's somebody else in their midst who might have had a hand in what they're experiencing. Um, so it turns out that this is when it's revealed of who it is it not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
at, right at pretty much the tail end of the episode.
yeah. So basically, by the end of the episode, you find out that the person who's made them forget is Kate, who they have all thought for the longest time now has been an ally of theirs, when in reality, she has kind of been pulling the strings, so be it, or so to say, on
Just yeah,
behalf of on behalf of the university as a whole,
uh-huh.
with
Yeah,
Dean
double.
Shetty, her name is.
Yeah, she's been working with her basically the whole time. And then it didn't click for me for this episode because it happened at the end. But, you know, the next episode, a lot of Kate's relationships with characters kind of makes sense. But we'll get to that when we get to the later episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that comes to light. But basically, what this episode reveals is that Kate is the one who's made them forget these things, and that she's in on it. And clearly, she's not what we or any of the other characters expected that she was going to be. I will say, you do get this scene has a. I enjoy the stuff with Sam, um, with the SWAT team in the sewer or wherever he's supposed to be, and
Yeah,
because of the things that are going on in his head, all of these SWAT team members turn into Muppets basically, and
yeah,
you just watch him like disemboweling Muppets and ripping their arms off, and instead of blood, it's like red sparkly confetti that comes out of them. It's violent and gruesome if you think to yourself those are people, but the way he's doing it, it's just done in such a comedic way.
it is, but it is. And you definitely, yeah, you know that these are real people. It's definitely a unique way to show blood without actually showing blood. It's definitely one of the bloodiest moments so far in the season. Uh, and because for me, seeing the puppets, yeah, it had a comedic layer on it. But when you really when you hear them talk, especially the one guy who says like he has a
He has a family and all. Yeah,
and then he just gets his head ripped off or just split in half or something.
yeah.
For me, that just made it a bit more disturbing because I,
Yeah, to hear them like almost like begging, like "Don't
because
hurt me,
yeah,
don't."
because you know it's real, but in Sam's mind it's not real, but it is really real.
Yeah, there are consequences.
Still
It's just
doesn't cut away from the fact that yeah, this shit is disturbing
oh,
in
it's
it's so many more ways
well because
than
even they show it like after like they don't show it, but they
like
show the aftermath, and it's just this tunnel is just filled with bodies and
meat.
body parts and yeah, meat basically. I mean, even when he walks out of the tunnel, there's a guy basically half repelled, and Sam was like ripped him in half, and it's just his torso hanging attached to this to the cable that he's repelled down on, and it's
Yeah, it shows you how messed up Sam is, but it also shows you how goddamn
strong.
much of a problem he is.
Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, at that point, if he can do that, it's like who can possibly even hope to stop him? Yeah. So I mean, I wanted to bring that up with that episode, and my note for that is just this has turned into the Muppet Show, and I am here for it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a unique way to shed a light on mental health.
oh, absolutely, it absolutely is because I mean
Yeah,
that's what this is. It's this is how he views. Maybe not all the time, but I certainly hope not all the time. But um,
at
this
least
is
in
how he views when he's like stressed out or he's
yeah,
upset. It's like he reverts to this, and this is. It's almost like his mind is trying to come to terms with what he's doing. And if you make him into puppets, it's like, well, when you were a little kid, if you ripped one of your toys, it's not the end of the world. Well, that's kind of how almost like how his mind is doing it to make him
yeah.
think that it's okay.
And with this episode, even though the plot does move forward in a lot of ways, to me it kind of feels a little filler. At least you could tell that they're slowing down the main plot in order to at least have a big finish towards the last two episodes. I don't know. To me, it kind of seems like the pacing kind of slowed down,
No, I get that. It's
like
almost like
half,
a almost like
half.
a calm before the storm type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I did. I felt this was like you say more of a filler episode, and then you go into 6 and it starts to ramp up, and then 7 and 8 is the big crescendo of it. But I
but
absolutely
yeah,
feel that this could be considered a filler episode.
for me, 5 feels like it, but 6 feels like it a little bit, like almost the same, if not a little bit more. Like
See,
both two episodes are the calm before the storm.
I find that 6 near the end it starts to ramp up a bit, like I said.
Yeah,
But you're right; they are slower episodes. 6 is more of a real character development episode, and we'll get to that in just a second. I did just, pardon me.
that's almost like a bottle episode.
Yeah, it does feel a lot like a bottle episode. Before we get to 6, I just want to bring up one thing. So in it's not even a mystery or not that big of a mystery. I thought it should have been played as a bit more, um, because at one point, Dean Shetty, and I believe she's talking to Marie about it, and she says something about that she has a benefactor, an anonymous or random benefactor that is kind of looking out for her, and that's who was really instrumental in getting her into the university. And I don't know if you had picked up on it, but when I heard that, I immediately, for some reason, latched onto that and was kind of like, what does that mean? Like, I thought she just kind of, I figured she just kind of got in there and got accepted on her own merits and all this other stuff, but clearly that's not the case. And I thought that it was something that should have been explored just a little bit more than they did. It was more kind of mentioned, and then I think it's the next episode or in 7 that it is in 7 that it just all of a sudden like, oh yep, there's the answer. I thought it should have been kind of hashed out a little bit more than it was, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they could have mentioned it maybe an episode or two before to really let it breathe, let it set in there a little bit. Yeah, this is the first time that you hear that her abilities are at least more special than we were led to believe, or even, she believed. Which is, I get it, because she's the main character, and so far her powers are kind of lame.
Yeah.
So only makes sense that, yeah, she would at least have something more going on there with her powers. But it kind of makes sense. If you can control blood in that capacity, what else she should be able to do more. But I get it in the context of the show because she hasn't really, I'm sure she didn't really ever get to practice, at least to an extent to where she could experiment with different things.
I'm also pretty sure that it terrifies her because the only time you ever see her use her abilities is when there's already someone bleeding. Whether it be when they're in the nightclub and she basically forces the blood back into the victim to save their life, or when she's cutting her hand to turn her own blood into a projectile. But theoretically, like, you'd have to think if you're able to control it outside of the body, why not inside? And that's kind of where they're kind of pointing. And but I just thought that, like you say, if the benefactor thing should have been spoken of an episode or two earlier, I don't even think it would have been a bad idea to have it brought up. And I think it's the very first episode when the professor's telling her that she's being expelled. Like, bring it up there, and something like the benefactor who is kind of going to bat, like your kind of the person who got you in here. They're kind of disappointed, and they were really hoping for better, and she kind of would like, well, what benefit? What are you talking about? And then it could have been a little bit more of a plot point throughout the show.
Yeah.
And by not utilizing that, I think that you might as well could have just left it right out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think a small little, tiny little breadcrumb in the first episode, and then maybe another breadcrumb a few episodes later.
Yeah,
would have narratively would have made things a lot more tighter in the story. It would have improved the writing.
Yeah, I feel that it would have helped it that way as well.
Add a little more breadcrumbs instead of it, because it does feel a little bit rushed. I get it. Doesn't really ruin anything, or it's not really doesn't make the reveal bad. It's just, it feels a little rushed. I get it.
No, it doesn't ruin it at all. It's just, like I say, I thought it could have been a little more fleshed out, but that, again, that's just my own opinion, and they decided to focus more on the group as a whole. I mean, as opposed to just her, which is fine. I mean, it is feeling like more of an more of an ensemble type show now, whereas in the first few episodes, your main focus was Marie. Whereas now I think that they'll have scenes of just Andre by himself or with him and his dad, or they'll have Emma with Sam, or it's not just about Marie. So it is feeling more like it's becoming an ensemble show as opposed to just about her, which I do enjoy because I like the majority of these actors. I did see what you were saying about the male who plays the male version of Jordan. I saw what you were saying about his lack of I'm acting a little, but I mean,
I literally wrote down in my notes. This is when you start to see it. Is this episode?
yeah. I mean, he doesn't do great, but I still enjoy him overall, just like I do most of the rest of the cast. So
No, he's just not as strong in it. It just shows in the moments where you have to show raw emotion.
exactly.
But that's fine.
Oh yeah. So all right. So now we'll go into to episode 6. Now this, as Juan kind of referred to, this is a very much like a bottle episode where. So basically, I don't even I can't even I didn't write down in my notes, and I wish I would have. Um, where they first kind of begin, because this whole episode you find out more or less takes place where all three of Jordan, Marie, and Andre are trapped inside of Kate's mind. I don't remember how. I don't off the top of my head. I cannot remember how it actually begins.
I think she uses, well, in the previous episode, I think she uses her powers to the point where she passes out, and then they're all in the room together as she's passed out. They wake her up, and then that's when she pulls everybody into her mind.
No, I understand that. I'm trying to remember what they're doing or where they are when they first realize that they're in her head.
They're just in the dorm room. They think she kind of disappeared because they're still in the room when they wake her up, and then the room starts to well, I think a door opens into like a wooded area, and then the room that they're in kind of starts to basically break apart the closer they get to the forest. As soon as they go through the door into the forest, that the place they were in kind of disappears, and then they're in the freaking forest for I guess the majority of that scene.
Yeah, yeah, that does sound right. Like I said, I didn't write down how they got there, and I kind of wish I should have, but that's beside the point.
Yeah,
So
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so this scene, and you know what? I am so sorry. There was one other point of episode 5 I completely forgot to mention, and it's that they just, you hear them talk about making a virus in the woods that will control. They say they make it sound like it's going to control the soups, and I only mention that because that is talked about in this episode. But anyways, back to the forest. They're, like we said, they're in Kate's mind, and then they started realizing that they're not just in her mind, but they're actually going through some of her own memories. And this is where you get a cameo that, as a fan, that I think is fantastic. I mean, I love this show, The Boys, and all that other stuff. But I've also been a fan of Supernatural for many, many years. So the fact that you get a Soldier Boy cameo here, played by the great Jensen Ackles, I think is absolutely hysterical. Now,
Yeah, it
he
was
comes in and
clever way to bring him in without ruining ruining anything that happened in The Boys.
yeah, because he just pops up and immediately they just kind of go, Soldier Boy, and it has nothing to do with what was going on in the other show. It's just his own standalone kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
it was completely random. I loved it. It was funny, but I think it was neat because for how serious the rest of the episode is, it kind of helped with the overall tone of the episode. It gave some levity to that house.
It definitely did. I mean, my note for this is just funniest minute of Soldier Boy I could ever hope for. And it's he basically comes out, and when they're questioning why he's there and whatnot, and he basically says that he was Kate's imaginary friend growing up, and then he alludes into like, well, I was actually more of a boyfriend, and he kind of goes into like, I taught her how to do this and how to do that, and it turns into a very innuendo heavy conversation, and it's kind of amusing the way he does it. No, but then they have him make the trope of every movie that has dire circumstances, things like that, and he says to them almost verbatim, now, the one thing that you absolutely cannot ever possibly do is, and as before he gets a chance to say it and give them tips and tricks of how to survive and get through all this, he's struck by lightning and just almost disintegrated, like into a pile of, like you said earlier, meat.
You knew it was coming as soon as he uttered those words. Shit was fun. I was like, yeah, that's how I expected him to go out, and like just in at least not in that specific way, but in hilarious fashion.
Oh yeah, and especially because when he comes on and he's like, I was her
Yeah.
imaginary friend, you know he's not sticking around.
Yeah, there's no way. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed that little cameo there. It was well fitted for the episode.
Yeah. And then while this is all going on, you also have Emma is back with Sam. They're at the drive-in movie theater, and they're together again. And there's there. I don't even know how to broach this subject. Just because it's such a, to me, I found it such a funny scene, and yet it's a touching scene at the same time, because basically her and Sam get together and they have sex and the whole thing, and it's a really sweet thing because you can see how much the two care for one another, but then the way, as we discussed earlier, the way Sam sees things takes over, and he's literally having sex with a Muppet. And the note that I put is, this is the oddest sex scene I've ever seen since Team America World Police. And if you know what I'm talking about, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. I will not go into that scene.
It was, compared to that scene, it was.
I mean, they even have her in front of like a claw machine where the Muppet's hand smacks the glass.
Yeah.
I thought it was hysterical personally.
It worked for the scene. Again, a little sprinkled humor, which I appreciate. It helps balance out pretty much the rest of craziness that goes on in the episode. Yeah, I really enjoy Emma as a character. I think she continues to be my favorite character overall.
Yeah, she is a great and the girl who plays her is a really good actress.
Yeah, she's got that it factor, which, I could see her playing, like, I could see her being probably scooped up by like Marvel or DC pretty soon.
Well, hopefully not DC, because then her career might be over.
No, not James Gunn. Not in the James Gunn new universe.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Hey.
I have a lot of faith in James Gunn, but just the way DC has been run and done their things, I'm not holding my breath quite yet. But I digress. There's some other things that, as you get through this you see when they're again stuck in Kate's memories. You find out that Shetty, Dean Shetty, actually recruited her when she was much younger to even come to the university and to do things like that. And she started giving her, because Kate as a child starts talking about, she tells her, it reminds me a lot of the Xavier Jean Grey scene in X3 Last Stand, where she's like I don't know, like a 12-year-old or something like that, like just a kid, and she doesn't know what she's doing or what these powers are, and they say that she can hear voices not constantly, and so Shetty gives her this medication, and she says it'll quiet the voices, and she wants her to come with her, and basically it's almost like from that moment she's grooming her for what she's gonna have her do later, which she's now currently doing to her friends and other classmates throughout the school. I thought that was a very interesting thing, because as you watch this, you start to dislike Kate because of the things that she's done to her close friends, and yet at the same time they also make her a sympathetic character because of what she's, as like I said, been groomed to do, I guess. And she, even though she does it, she feels bad every time she does it, or so they say, the character at least. I thought it was a pretty effective way of doing that and giving a little bit of backstory without going crazy into it.
Yeah, I mean, even though she did terrible things, we recognize that it's not because she wanted. She was kind of forced.
Yeah, she felt like there was no choice.
Sympathize with her.
I don't know if I sympathize completely, but I do see what they were going for.
Yeah, same. I recognize. Yeah, like, I mean, I recognize what they're trying to do. She's definitely a conflicted character, and I think the actor is playing the role very well.
Yeah, she really showed her acting skills in these last few episodes. I thought Kate was, I mean, it's a character that you don't want to, like, you don't like the character. I thought she portrayed it very well and very believable. Because also in this, like you said, she's not the greatest of people. We also, as they're in her memory, they also somehow she gets them to go into their own memories. And one of them that you see is the fact that Andre and Kate, who have now started kind of becoming an item, that they were actually hooking up with one another while Luke, Kate's boyfriend, Golden Boy, was still alive. And that really causes Marie and Jordan to turn on Andre, not in a way to make him a villain, but almost like, how could you do something like that to your best friend? And it's kind of a focus of a bit of the episode there that I thought kind of, again, it's more of the college dynamic, but I think that with kids this age, it's something that they kind of had to go into and just kind of give a little bit of a feel that these are kids. They're dealing with all this coming of age type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they are kind of mad at him and really asking why he would do that, and they do definitely feel some type of way towards him until their memories pop up. Then
Yeah.
you come to realize each one.
They've all got their little secrets.
Everyone has secrets that they feel super embarrassed, guilty of them, and it
Now,
it shows that they're human. I like it.
which is it's really funny that you say that they're human, because that's actually a line that comes up in the finale episode, which we'll talk about later. But when they do Jordan's memory, now I don't remember what she was not hiding, but I can't even think of the word. Kind of downplaying or helping cover up is what I was trying to say. But she basically, it's something to do with, wasn't the woods? I'm sorry, I'm completely blanking. I just remember that whatever it was she basically agrees to help the professor cover it up in order to become his TA. And
Well,
it's
from what, because I recently watched it not too long ago. The professor basically lied to Jordan, saying that with is it Luke, right? With Luke's powers,
yeah, Luke is
type
Golden
of
Boy
side
or
effect.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some type of side effect. So she thinks that there's just something going on because they're enhancing his powers. And those are
Yes, that's right.
she wanted
The
those enhanced.
advancements.
I guess that's why she was covering up, or at least um being hush hush about
Yes,
Luke.
but in reality, what they were doing is they were basically experimenting on Luke and his brother Sam simultaneously, and then using Kate to erase Luke's memories so that he would have no recollection of that, which again is a very touchy thing, especially considering um, Kate is dating Luke and Jordan. I mean, Jordan doesn't know that that's what they're doing, but she's good friends with him and she's still willing to do this just to further advance her own personal status at the university, which just goes to show what kind of control the outcome of their time there at this God U, as they call it.
Yeah, from what I got is I think they were making Luke stronger using Sam's blood.
That's kind of what they're alluding. They don't ever actually come out and say it, I don't think, but that is kind of what it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. And which again it shows you Sam is physically he's quite powerful.
He's extremely powerful, and with his mental state, it's kind of a terrifying thing for him to be out on the loose. I guess is a good way to put it.
I wrote another note within Jordan's memory. There's a scene where I guess they both interact, the male and female version. They have a scene together. And this is, I think, the one scene you can point out as a fact that one actor is a lot stronger than the other.
Well, it's much easier to see when they're playing off each other, yeah. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This scene really lets
Yeah, like the male Jordan isn't a bad actor because they are playing off each other very well. They
the
have good
females just better.
but when it comes to I guess the line delivery, she just seems way more believable.
Yeah, she has a the way she plays it. She's almost got like a quiet intensity about her and the way she plays the role, which I enjoy and I appreciate when it comes to this part. I did write a note about this because all these things about um, the virus that they're talking about in the woods and Shetty using Kate and kind of controlling her and things like that. These are all humans. They're not soups. They're just one's a doctor, the other one's the head of the university, and I found it was a very interesting juxtaposition in the fact that if you watch the show The Boys, you're rooting for civilians with no powers to take out these superpowered individuals because you see how evil some of them can be. And then when you watch Gen V, it's completely flipped, where you're rooting for the superpowered people to take out the civilians because they're kind of behaving like monsters in the way that they treat these people with abilities. And I just found that was a very weird and interesting kind of look at both series, and it really shows that no one in this universe is right or better than the others at all.
Yeah, no, I never thought of it like that, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, that definitely checks out. The virus, you hear about it in episode 5, but this episode you hear like about the virus when the guy who is behind the creation of the virus, I guess, perfects it, or at least has a good enough trial version.
Yeah, he's getting it close to where he wants it to be.
You start to see Shetty's true nature or true colors when she asks, "Can it be contagious?" That might be the last thing you hear in the episode.
Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, it's either can it be contagious or how contagious can you make it? Like, how effective is this going to be if we want to use this for a large population type thing?
So before that, you understand that yeah, she's not the best character, but this one lets you know that she is a lot more evil than we originally thought. And
Yeah, and I
is.
oh, sorry, you go ahead. I completely cut you off.
No, I just said you start to see what her true intentions are.
Yeah, so then once we get into, oh, I'm sorry, the whole thing. So they basically they're able to get kind of in touch, I guess is a way to say it, with Kate while they're still inside of her head, and they kind of plead with her and say like you got to let us out, like we can help you, we can get through this together, and she finally kind of relents and allows everybody kind of out of her head and to wake up, and immediately you can see they just look at her so differently. And I don't understand how you wouldn't. I mean, if I woke up one day and I realized that one of my closest friends had been controlling me and erasing, and basically like I just like to use the term, had been men in blacking me, and just kind of replacing what my memories were, or things like that, or just because I mean, with a simple touch of her hand, she can tell you to forget. She can tell you to do this, do that, do whatever she wants you to do, and you know what you're doing, but you're completely powerless to stop it. And that, if I found out that one of my closest friends had been doing that to me, whether she's being controlled by somebody else or not, it would drastically change the way I looked at them. And you can really see that on these characters' faces.
Yeah, it's you can see the distrust and fear, anger. Yeah, they a lot of high emotions when they come back, and really see Kate for what she's capable of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that they've thankfully gotten out of her head, they start to think of what they're going to do moving forward, and that brings us into episode 7 of this show, which is kind of all centered around. This is another one of those bleed over things from the season of The Boys, in which you have I can't remember her first name, but they're going to be hosting a basically not a like an interview, almost like a town hall meeting at the university with this political. What's the first name?
Victoria Newman.
Victoria. All my notes just say Newman.
Yeah, it's Victoria.
Yeah, a lot of the episode kind of centers around this idea that so in The Boys, she is basically running partner for a character in the show who's going to be running for president, and she's going to be his vice president if he wins. So they have her come to the school and do this, like I say, town hall meeting, and that's kind of where part of the story takes place. And then on the other side, you have Sam and Emma are back Emma has brought Sam back to the school, and she's hiding him in her and Marie's dorm room. And then you have Marie, Jordan, Kate, and Andre trying to move forward with their conflict and what they're going to do about all the situation of the school and things like that Kate has now explained to them and what the problems are there. So this episode, there's a lot going on in this episode, to say the least.
Yeah. It's the second last episode, so yeah, they're starting to tie everything together.
And in this episode, you do finally get to see that what the virus looks like. They show they've infected, I think it's just one to start with, and it's fucking brutal. Like,
yeah, because the doctor made it contagious, but I believe only through physical contact.
It's physical. It's either physical contact or like bodily fluids or something like that.
Yeah, either or, like, yeah, they have
and that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just reiterating what you were saying.
Yeah, and then that's again when Shetty has to fucking take it up a notch, and she asks if he can make it airborne, because when they first bring up this virus, you think that they want to use it to control superpowered people, when in reality, it will kill them, not control. They want. So Shetty, the way it's kind of portrayed is, it's almost like she wants to just wipe them out completely.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you want an airborne virus, you want no survivors. You definitely want to take out everybody.
Yeah, that's
genocidal Hitler shit she's on right now.
Yes, absolutely, and it's just, and the way she says it is just, I don't know. She almost has a half smirk to her face when she's like, "Can you make it airborne?" And he looks at her like, "Are you kidding me?" It's almost like he's proud of what he's done, and yet at the same time he's beyond horrified of what the ramifications could be with this virus and how it's going to affect the world. And he says to her, "It's completely harmless to you and me, but to any soup, it's absolutely deadly." And you really see the wheels in her head turning, like, how can we really use this? And there's another, with that whole virus thing, there's another Boys crossover when you see she's met up with the character Mallory from The Boys, who has a long history of working with Butcher and MM and Frenchie and all that. And so immediately, if you watch that show, you're thinking, oh shit, if Butcher can get a hold of this, like, his mission's accomplished 100%. But even Mallory says to her, like, this is genocide. Like, why would you ever want to do this? So even somebody who from watching the other show, despises people with powers. Even her, she's like, why? Like, why would you want to do this?
Oh yeah. Well, she knows firsthand that there's people with powers that are good and do good. It's just there's a lot of people that do bad with powers.
It's it's that whole thing that they abuse them, and it's that old adage of with great or not great power, great responsibility. Sorry, it's absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that's what it seems like. A lot of these, any of these soups who go bad, it seems like they immediately have that superiority complex of, oh, you don't have powers, I'm immediately better than you, and you don't matter.
Which is realistic. I mean, that's exactly what happened if people had powers.
Oh, it absolutely is, which is why I enjoy the way that these two shows kind of portray things. Because if you watch like the typical superhero stuff that we all have, the Marvel and the DC and all that other stuff, that's a very again, it's exactly what they're. It's a Saturday morning cartoon outlook on that type of stuff. Whereas this is what superheroes would be like if they existed in our world today. Because you take the egos of people who right now are like the top 1% type thing. Well, if you're a superhero and you're working for this Vought type of company and you're making all these movies and they're all worried about how much money they make and their net worth and all this other stuff. So now you take it to you're a top 1%er in terms of earnings, but you also have these abilities that nobody else can duplicate. You're immediately going to be like, of course I'm better than you. Why wouldn't I be? I have everything and you have jack shit. So it is very realistic of how I think this world would function if people actually had superpowers, which is terrifying.
Yeah. No, it's fucked up if it'd be a very similar situation if
So let's
people
hope
had.
that doesn't happen. So through this, like I said, Emma, and there's not a whole lot that I have written down in terms of our main group of characters until pretty much the end of the end portion of the episode. Um, the main thing that I remember is, or not remember, but was focusing on when I was watching it was, so you've got Emma and I keep wanting to call him Jack, but his name is not Jack. Emma and Sam. Um, she's got him in her dorm, and she's like, okay, just basically she's gonna go destroy the evidence of the clothes he was wearing when he killed all those SWAT team members and things like that. And she's like, I'm gonna go get rid of this. You just kind of sit tight, do not leave this room, no matter what. I will be back for you. And she leaves, and he kind of just like a little kid, like he goes around and he's inspecting things and he's being nosy and looking, and he finds like a drawer of her fucking sex toys and all these other random things in their room. And then he hears a commotion in the hallway, and he goes out, and there are people all, well, you're using their powers. Somebody's turned the hallway into an ice slip and slide, which fuck looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And he basically gets lured into they say they're going to a party, when in reality they're going to this town hall meeting that Victoria Newman is speaking at. It's basically an interview, and they just all start roasting her, and it almost starts turning. The note I put, it says an interview is starting to turn into a fucking Homelander rally, because they're all have that superiority complex, and they're saying like we shouldn't hide or hold back of who we are. We should be the ones in charge of everything because we're better, and it just kind of snowballs from there, and it really gets out of hand.
Yeah. You could tell there's a lot of real world social commentary there with certain groups like Black Lives Matter and At least that's what I got from it. Yeah, things got out of hand pretty quick, which was crazy. With at least with some of the powers people had. There's like a girl that had like a Banshee scream. Uh, there's a guy.
There's a very big array
Wait,
of powers.
sorry.
I said there's a very big array of powers between people. I'm sorry, I cut you off as well.
Yeah, yeah. The tension in that room was thick, and all it took was some little altercation things to things get out of hand rather quickly.
Yeah, because one person makes one comment, and all of a sudden, everybody else feels empowered and they feel gutsy. Like if they can say it, so can I. And it just it ends up creating that mob mentality. And when the mob has superpowers,
Yeah,
you better fucking run.
yeah. And Sam, he got dragged and to witness this, and he starts to see, or at least he's starting to get convinced that soups are superior. I guess that plants the seed in his head. I put a note that he was I don't know if he was too easily manipulated, but he was definitely easily manipulated into thinking rather quickly that superheroes are the superior over non-soups.
I think he was too easily manipulated. I agree with that, but at the same time, I almost don't want to call it that because he's had throughout his life and the majority of his life, he's had such little interaction with other people that the minute someone is nice to him, and I'm not saying it's as a negative thing because he obviously didn't do this to himself, but the minute that someone is nice to him or even almost like just cordial to him, immediately he's ready to listen to every word they have to say and kind of go along with them just because, again, being someone who's been alone for so long now, if he does just this one little thing, he can belong. And I think that's a really interesting concept in terms of the way his character is, and I'm sure that the things that affect his mental health also have a factor in that. But I mean, if you were alone by yourself in a steel concrete room for 90% of your life, and then you came out and a group of people are like, yeah, come with us, join us, this is what we should be doing. I think all of us would really, really start to listen to that and say, you know what, maybe they're right, because you want to belong. That's human nature.
Yeah, and you just don't know how the world works. Really, people don't. You only know what you're seeing. You haven't really been seeing a whole lot of positive and good in people. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah, and then so also a couple other things in this episode, you find out. This is where you find out that Marie, as we brought up earlier, Marie's benefactor is actually Victoria Newman. We find out about that near the end of the episode. And another thing is that the school as a whole is a complete fraud, and it was created by a scientist, and his main goal was to just have only superpowered students enroll so that he could study them, and that's really all it is. And it's just kind of blossomed into this full-fledged university, but still the main goal is to study them. And since Shetty has taken over, it's clearly the goal has been to study them and find out how to kill them on a mass level.
Yeah, yeah. You also find out that Marie and Newman have the exact same powers.
Yeah. I figured we would get to that. It's a really cool thing because all you see in The Boys is that Newman can. All she does is really make people's heads explode, and then you see what Marie can do in this, and that's when they start to go into like she can control and sense blood anywhere and everywhere, and that's what Newman kind of gets out of her. She basically tells her like, look in me and see like, and she's like, well, I can't because I can almost like I can only control it or anything like that when it's on the outside. And she kind of says, no, you need to look harder at what you're actually capable of. And it kind of opens a whole new door to Marie, which she will utilize at a later moment in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, she's in that moment you realize how that Marie is OP as hell because you know what Newman's capable of. Which is crazy. I like that. I like that reveal. That was I appreciated it.
Yeah, I liked it because it does make her a lot more like instantly more terrifying is not the right word, but um, immediately she goes from a level of, well, this is an interesting power that could come in handy, to turn that up to 11, and like she can really fuck shit up on a big scale with this power.
Yeah, she's got potential to do a lot of harm if necessary.
And I mean, after this, she finds that she senses that there's a tracker in her blood just by using her abilities, and she pulls it again using her abilities, pulls it out of her. So not only can she control it, but she can sense it and even manipulate it, even within somebody's body if she wants to, which is a really scary thing. When you, I mean, it's one thing to be punched in the face or something like that, but for someone randomly to just walk by you and to be able to literally make your blood boil or something like that is a really scary concept.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to season 2 and how they continue that and how her powers grow.
Yeah, I'm very excited for season 2 of this show. So basically, when you get to the end of the show, is they have the main group of characters. They confront Dean Shetty about everything that she's done and with the controlling of Kate and the whole deal. And as they're trying to just kind of have a conversation, Kate makes her kill herself, and she slits her own throat. And it's kind of like it's an instant thing where as soon as she goes to do it, everyone's screaming like, no, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. And it's just instant. They're like, why would you do that? And immediately she's like, well, because she clearly deserved it. Like, didn't you see what she was doing to me and to us? And they're like, yeah, but we didn't want her like dead. We wanted to use her to figure this out. Well, that clearly wasn't in Kate's plans.
Yeah, well, you discover why she hates Soup so much is because her family was on whatever flight
That was the
that
Homelander and Queen Maeve flight.
in the hands of
Yeah. That they never. I don't think they ever actually said it. They just said the flight number, which I'm sure was referenced in that episode of The Boys. But they kept talking about this plane crash, and I'm going, it's got to be the one with Homelander and Queen Maeve, because if it's not, it's just a random line about a random plane crash. Okay,
no.
that's what I thought.
Once I heard plane crash, I kind of figured it was that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
was the same way. And I was kind of like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, I'm 99% sure I'm right, but at the same time, I'm like, can you confirm it, please, just to so that I know for sure?
yeah, no, that's her motivation. And even though I understand, I
I don't
I don't
understand genocide
don't
over it.
with her wanting to wipe everyone out.
No, I mean, you would think that for something like that, you would want to do everything you could because the two people in that were Homelander and Queen Maeve. You would want to do everything you could to have those two held accountable, not everyone else who just happens to have powers. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I guess she views it like a racist. She views if you're one, one is all. She just views all
Yeah,
soups
that's how they portray it.
as a disease, as a problem that should be fixed.
Yeah, that's definitely how they portray it and the way she views things. And
Yeah.
then, oh,
She
sorry, go ahead.
she got she made her own bed.
Yeah, she got involved in it. She was using Kate for her own means and her own ends for years, and like you say, she made her own bed and she had to suffer those consequences, and that just it sucked for her, but at the same time, you kind of did it to yourself. And then the episode ends with Newman meeting up with Dr. I believe his name was Dr. Cardoza, but well, that doesn't matter because well, he's dead now. But Newman meets up with him in an abandoned parking garage. It's very deep throat, um, Woodward and Bernstein esque in the shadows of a parking garage. Um, and basically, he gives her the virus, and he says that he wants to be a help to her cause and things like that. And she's like, "Oh no, I appreciate it. I'll take this and I'll make sure it gets into the right hands." And she very poignantly asks him, "Is there anyone else who knows this formula?" Nope. Is there anyone else who could replicate this? Nope. Is there all these different kind of questions to make sure that she's hearing what she wants to hear, and upon getting those answers, we get to see her blow up another head. And that's how the episode ends. Is now Newman is in possession of this virus. I don't believe that. I think he was able to make it an airborne thing. I don't know if that's ever actually shown or if they just kind of allude to it when they have the 4 or 5 um, kids in the room that have been affected by it. I think they allude to it being airborne there at that point.
They must have hinted that was airborne and perfectly safe if you keep it refrigerated or under a certain temperature.
Oh, so it's like the Elvis weapon in Chill Factor.
Yes.
Again, if you know that movie, you know what I'm talking about. It's a terrible movie, but I find it highly entertaining. So back to this show, we go into the next episode, and it picks up right where episode 7 left off, and even though they tried to convince Kate that she was um, that they can help and they can all kind of get along and coexist with one another, she's like, no, fuck that. And now she's along the thought of soups are superior, all non-soups have to kind of pay for basically for what Shetty did to her and
Or
for
at least
any other
evil.
soup who's been taken advantage of in that way.
Yeah. I think they're trying to they're very vengeful against just like evil non-soups.
Yeah. But at the same time, they see everybody who like at least that's how they kind of portray it. She sees everyone as kind of against her type thing. So she tries to convince them to go with her, and they're all like, "No, no way, no, we're not in on this. We're not going with you." And then she appeals to Sam. Now, I thought this was a very quick turnaround for him. I talked to you about this a little bit earlier, but I thought this was an odd choice for his character, the way this kind of goes down. But she just basically says to him, like, you were treated like shit. You were held captive, basically, and experimented on, and yada, yada, yada. Don't you want your revenge on these people? And he's kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll go with you. And from there, they leave, and their plan is they're going to go to the woods, and they're going to free all of the superpowered people that are being held in there. They're going to free them and just let them loose on the world. And the other three, Andre, Jordan, and Marie, are all basically saying, like, no, we can't let them do this. We have to stop them. And so you kind of have a feeling that it's going to end up coming down to a showdown between these two groups.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. As soon as you realize that they're going to release prisoners and they're just gonna like just start walking around, you knew something was gonna happen just because these people are probably very angry at being locked up and ready to throw hands.
Or fireballs or whatever their powers are.
Yeah. Yeah, they're ready to fucking put upon the pain that was put upon them, you know?
Yeah. And needless to say, that's exactly what they do. So Sam and Kate go down. She uses her powers to control the guard, and they let everybody out. And this whole part where they're all kind of standing in a row, and Kate's in front of them, it almost seems like she. I mean, she is doing this, but it almost looks like an old timey movie where they're like that, almost like that Bravehearts type speech. Like she's riling up her army and getting them ready to go. And then again, with what we had said earlier about Kate can do pretty much anything with her powers, she says to the guard on their way out of the woods, she goes, "You're a terrible person," or something like that. And I want you to eat your hands. And you literally see him put his hand in his mouth, and you hear like crunching and him moaning in pain, like he's literally eating his fingers. And it's just with a single touch of her hand, like that's immense and terrifying power. And they really show it in this episode.
Yeah, she was crazy.
And then basically it's just Soups waging war on civilians. And the first one is a guy just walks out of the building. He actually walks up to Rufus first, and he's, are you a Soup? And he goes, yeah, of course. Okay. Goes, no, are you a Soup? Yeah. Are you a Soup? Yeah. He finally gets to somebody, says, are you a Soup? And she goes, no, I'm a professor of this, that, and the other thing. And he grabs her head, and it's like he's like an oven almost. It's just producing massive heat, but no flame. And he just basically cooks her and kills her right there on the spot. And then it shows all these other captives from the woods doing the exact same thing. And they're just going on just murderous rampages of anyone who is on this campus who doesn't have a superpower. Your days are numbered, because these people are hunting you down to kill you right now.
Well, it starts off as them killing, and then I think it just into they just start killing every fucking buddy.
Yeah, I think after a while it just changes, and nobody is safe.
Yeah, shit was insane. That shit was just complete carnage.
And during this whole thing, you've got the Vought board of directors trying to do what they do and spin this into a positive light somehow, and then they get word of what's going on, and they're overlooking this from a boardroom. They're looking out the windows and they're seeing this all happen throughout the campus of the school, and they're just terrified. And I'm sure I would be if I was in that situation as well.
At the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I did like one little thing. Again, if it's one of those Easter eggs from The Boys, if you've watched that show, which I know you have, but I mean more our listeners, they mentioned there's a character in the show named Maverick who's invisible, and he pops up here and there as a little bit role. I never even thought about this, but as soon as they said it, I went, yeah, that makes total sense. And they say that he is the son of Translucent, who was in the first couple episodes of The Boys. He was the first soup that Butcher and his team captured, and he was invisible. And as soon as they said that, I just kind of had a little chuckle, like, oh, yeah, I never would have kind of thought of that because he was such a minor character in The Boys. But I said, oh, that's kind of interesting. I like that little callback, that little Easter egg there for people who have watched both shows.
Yeah. I remember he had a kid in the Boys season 1. I think he's at the funeral of Translucent in like season 2.
Okay, I don't remember that, but
a connection until they mention it. Yeah, no, it was a good Easter egg. Makes total sense because they're both freaks
invisible.
and horny freaks.
Yes, very much so. Very, very weird sexual stuff going on with both of those characters.
So yeah. I enjoyed the character in Jet B for small amount of time that he was in.
I thought he was amusing when he was on screen.
Yeah, it was
his hat and sunglasses were on screen.
Voice, yeah, but no, yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't really take a ton of notes this episode because a lot of it is just, like you say, is just carnage. Two things I did take notes on were they were actually actual quotes, and one of them is, I think, is my new favorite way for somebody in a movie or show to say they want you to kill somebody, and that's Kate says it, and she says, "Cancel them from planet Earth." No, I'm sorry. I think not Kate. It's Ashley who says it when she calls Marie on the phone because she wants Marie to kill these rogue soups, and if she does that, they're going to put her right into the 7, and that's how they're hoping that this board of directors can get out of this. And she calls her and she says, "Yeah, I want you to do this for us. I want you to cancel them. I want you to cancel them from planet Earth." And I just kind of had a laugh out loud moment, and I said, that's the greatest way to say, I want you to kill somebody.
Oh well, yeah, no, that's a good line.
And the other one is Kate says it near the end of the episode to Marie when Marie is trying to reason with her yet again because there's like I think they're all still hoping that somehow they can salvage what little friendship they had. And Kate, it was earlier you said something about they have these human emotions, and Kate literally says to her, she says, you're not a person, you're a product to these people. And I don't know if there's a line through this entire series, this or The Boys, that's more true about this world that this show is based in. And that it's true, anybody with superpowers doesn't matter except for the influence and the image that they have and how it can help the company. So I thought that was a really, really interesting way to call it out. Like these kids aren't even part of the Seven or any of this bigger, grander scale, and immediately she's already like, we don't matter to them. We are just, we're like a car that's for sale, and we're a product. That's all we are. And the sooner you realize that and just accept it, or just kind of go the other direction and never use your powers again, either way, it's better than like that's the only two options she's saying is what you really have.
Yeah, I remember, was it Edgar, season 3 has a scene with Homelander, and he calls him bad product.
Yeah, that's how they view them, which sucks. I mean, it's really terrible, but I mean, again, with the world we live in, it wouldn't surprise me at the same time.
Yeah, I liked it was a little callback / connection to The Boys.
Yeah, and it's hard if you've watched both shows not to enjoy those little things that just pop up here and there, that it kind of feels like an inside joke that you're a part of. And if you're watching it with someone who doesn't watch The Boys, it's like, I know what they're referencing, but you don't.
And it just confirms that, yeah, basically the higher ups in Vought just look at these soups as either bad product or good product. Regardless, they don't see them as humans. They see them as
commodities.
Yeah.
And it's like, you think as humans you go through all these things, whereas all they care about is, what are your numbers? How are your social media numbers? How are your merchandise sales? How much money are you making us as a whole? That's their main goal. And like I said, with the world we live in, I could really see that being a thing if people with superpowers existed. But yeah, most of this episode is just this kind of war on campus. And I did notice that before I watched this episode, and I think the 7th one as well, there's a warning that pops up in light of all the things that have happened at school campuses over the past many years. There's a warning that comes up that says this episode depicts violence on a school campus or on school grounds or something like that. And I thought that was kind of interesting, that because of how prevalent things like that have become, that they actually have to add a specific warning as opposed to just what they would normally put, like graphic violence or whatever, but they actually have to have a specific warning of, yeah, this takes place at a school. And I think that's really sad with the way the world is, but that's not I don't want to go too deeply into that. I just thought that was an interesting thing that I don't remember ever seeing before as a warning until this.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice that. But yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, this
carnage was this episode.
Yeah. And then that's kind of how the whole episode culminates with this massive battle, and it's the final one is the board members, the humans, they escape into a helicopter that is unable to fly, but at least they're not out in the open. And Kate is who is she? She's going for Jordan. She's going to touch Jordan to basically tell Jordan to destroy the helicopter and kill all those people inside. And as she's reaching this, I thought this was very interesting. As she's reaching out, Marie finally summons those powers that Newman alluded to so much and what she has the capability of. And she blows up the end of Kate's entire arm. And that's kind of it. You think like, oh yeah, cool. Like, they won. They beat her. They're going to be able to kind of corral all these people and get things settled down, and that's it. But next thing you know, it fucking Homelander shows up, and he's basically there to kind of control the situation. And I was kind of shocked that I know they had mentioned his name earlier in the episode, but I was kind of shocked that they actually got him to show up, like the character, for this scene. I wasn't really expecting that.
I had a feeling he was going to pop up at some point, just because he's such a damn big deal in the boys. He's such a basically carrying that show on his back. I had a feeling that you'd at least see his face in some capacity.
I mean, I was glad to, as much as I despise what the character does and stands for and whatnot. I enjoy seeing him because I think the actor does a really good job portraying the character, and it's fun to watch actors who are really good at being villains. It's fun to watch them on screen, and he's no exception to that. He's very enjoyable to watch, and he shows up and I don't even think he says it. Did he even say a line?
Yeah, he said, "What kind of monster are you? Killing your own people or harming your own people or whatever." And he tells everybody to stand back.
And you see his eyes go, and he hits you. Like, I thought at least it was definitely going to be at Kate, but instead he hits Marie dead center of her chest with his laser eyes. And then I thought that, like, there's no way they killed her, but how did she possibly survive that?
I don't know. I know it's gonna get explained, but yeah, I have no idea how she survived that.
Well, yeah, because, like, I'm thinking, like, oh, when that happened and it kind of cut to black, I was like, okay, I guess season's over. And I did think for a quick second that's a really cool, good cliffhanger to kind of end it on. But that's not the end. It then it goes to a news anchor talking about how there were 4 people who went on this killing spree, and the TV shows Jordan, Marie, Emma, and Andre. And then it says that those 4 went on this killing rampage, and then there were 2 soups who stopped them, and it shows the pictures of Sam and Kate. So clearly, once again, Vought is, or whoever is controlling all this, I'm pretty sure it's still Vought.
Yeah.
They've spun it in terms of what they want the narrative to say. And then it shows those 4 characters in just basically a white room with, like, almost like big futuristic type hospital beds, it looks like. And that's it. Marie wakes up and they're like, "Oh, you took that like a champ," and this and that, and you have no idea what's going on, but clearly they're being held somewhere. And even Marie looks around and she says, "But there are no doors in this room. Like, where are we?" And that's how the season ends, and it's going to raise a lot of questions about what they do in the future of this show, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen and where they're heading, what direction they're heading with this show.
Yeah. Well, you know that you could tell that it's setting up at least partially the next season of The Boys. I have a feeling that the virus is going to play a much bigger role.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they did almost like a couple crossover type episodes. I don't think they're going to come out at the same time, but maybe crossover is the wrong word. Maybe like because there is a stinger scene of this, and it's you just see the woods and it's all dark and somebody's walking through with a flashlight, and when the light moves away from the screen and you actually see who it is, it's Butcher. Billy Butcher is there, and he utters a word that I don't like saying, but apparently it's Carl Urban's favorite word. And he has that typical smirk that he has throughout the Boys show. So you're right. I think that's going to come into play, and it really wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden in the new season of The Boys you have one of these, or maybe all 4 of these main characters pop up along with him, or whether it be part of his group or just helping, or he might go to them for like some information. It really wouldn't shock me, and I kind of hope that it happens, because I'd love to see more of these characters on screen.
Same. Yeah, I have a feeling that they're going to slowly intertwine with each other. a lot more in the coming seasons, and I'm for it. Yeah, I as long as they don't do it too much where it hurts the story, I'm for it.
Yeah, that's my big worry is that they're going to have trouble figuring that out, and they're going to end up having to shoehorn it all in together, and it's going to feel really out of place. But if they can get it in organically and they're able to work these two shows and kind of not mesh them permanently, but allow for those types of crossover episodes, I think it would be beneficial for both shows. The only negative part is I'm sure there are people out there who watch The Boys who won't or don't want to watch Gen V and vice versa. So if they do that, when they do those crossover type episodes, it might hurt those fans. But you know what? Oh well. You can't please everybody, and you'll never be able to.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a lot or many people that prefer and exclusively watch one show over the other. They're both equally as good writing and acting, and
I
so
agree.
I
I'm not
believe.
saying the vast majority. I'm just saying I'm sure there's going to be a handful of select few people who are like that.
That's their problem.
Exactly. So yeah, that wraps up season 1 for Gen V here. I personally thought it was fantastic. The characters are all written in a very compelling way, and even though a lot of it is like we discussed, a lot of the typical college drama backstory, background stuff like that, I really thought that the show was done very well, and I think that as you go along in this show, because I can't imagine the second season having anything to do with the university. I mean, at least not in terms of them still being students. It might still have to do with the university as a whole as an institution, but I don't think they're going to be like in classes or anything like that like they were this season. So I'm really hoping that they allow the characters to kind of age up a little bit. Not a ton, but maybe get past some of the drama stuff, the relationship drama stuff, and um, I'm really really looking forward to it. And I think I said on the last episode I would highly recommend this show to anybody who likes. I mean, this show's got action, it's got comedy, it's got a little bit of romance.
Teen drama or young adult.
It's got that drama. It's got a whole lot of different things that cover a lot of different genres that unless you can't or you have a real problem with the violence and the gore, I think the majority of people would like this show. And I know there are people out there who probably will never watch it because of that level of violence and gore. And I mean, unfortunately for those people, there's not really much that can be done about that because that's just the style of the show that they do, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But
Yeah, I agree. If you can't handle gore, if you don't like seeing blood, I do not recommend that show. Other than that, I think it has a little bit for everybody, at least grab on to continue watching. I think most people can get enjoyment out of the show. I highly recommend.
yeah, I agree with everything you said, and if we're gonna go back into our ratings, I'm probably gonna rate this a solid 9 for the second half of this season. It was very compelling. Again, I like the action, I like the storytelling, the script writing. The pacing was really good. There was no real, apart from like you said with episode 5 with that little bit of filler. But even that filler episode, I still enjoyed quite a bit. There aren't very many slow parts. I thought the show is paced very well and written extremely well, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in the future. And I'm really excited for when they come out with season 2. What do you want to rate this show and this experience?
I'm about the same. Give it about a 9. Show doesn't have many flaws. Just a few nitpicks. yeah, it's highly entertaining. It balances so many themes very well, which is very rare for a show to do so well in its first season. I also enjoy a lot of the I guess real world connections with a lot of the social commentary that that is in this show. I appreciate it, and I'm definitely looking forward to season 2 and where the story goes from.
Yeah, I certainly didn't expect that, like you say, the social commentary to be there, but I definitely appreciate it because it's just something that we all kind of notice or deal with on a day-to-day basis, and it's kind of refreshing to see it put in a modern show, especially one that's in the superhero kind of sci-fi type fantasy. I know it's not sci-fi or fantasy, but I'm trying to think of what else you could refer to it as um, in that type of genre. But I think that's gonna do it for this week. And next week we haven't decided on what movie we're gonna do yet, but we are going to be delving into for the month of December. We're gonna do some Christmas stuff for you guys. We're gonna do a couple movies and then probably do another top 5 type list of our favorite Christmas movies. Like I said, we're still discussing which episode we're going to do next week, but I will, once we decide that in the next day or two, I will put that up on our social medias. So make sure you follow us on there, and you can follow us on Twitter or X at geeked_podcast with a capital G. You can follow our Instagram at geekedoutpod. And you can email us at geekedoutpod@gmail.com if you have any suggestions of any Christmas or holiday movies you might like, or you think we would like to maybe to watch and discuss. We're always open to suggestions, and we'd love to hear what you guys think. And I'm also in the process of setting up a YouTube channel for us to post there as well, and maybe in the future even do some videos or things like that. And as soon as I get that up and running, I will share that on the socials as well as let you guys know here. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for Juan and myself. So I'd like to say thanks for listening, and thanks for subscribing. Take care, everybody.
Peace.